Hello everyone, thanks for tuning into the Spring 2024 forecast. GavsWeatherVids. So here we go again, time to deliver another long-range forecast for you. We've been doing spring updates over the past couple of months, started them in the new year, and we're now at the end of February, more or less, so it's time to bring you our latest spring forecast. So I shall get on that for you in a moment. We'll go through the spreadsheet sent through by Tony Scully, we'll have a look at our analog years, and then I shall give you the GavsWeatherVids spring forecast. So sit back, relax, enjoy, and it's all to be revealed. Just say that first, a video release there is our 6 cent UK weather forecast, and we're going to be live at 6 PM as well. So if you've got any questions about this spring forecast, then please let me know on the live stream at 6 PM. We'll also be live streaming our 10 to 14 day, and we'll be having a look at some long range as well. So it's all to come a little bit later on. Please like, share, and subscribe on all today's videos and content. Thank you so much, everybody, for doing that. Thanks to Richard for our amazing spring updates gift. I love it. I love it, love it, love it. We could have named the bee, couldn't we? I love it. Thank you so much, Rich. Absolutely fantastic. Thank you so much, my friend. How pretty. How spring-like. Lovely May Day. I love it. Thank you so much, Richard. Thank you so much to Terry and Shryan as well. And hashtag Team Gab, you know, throughout the season of spring updates and for the spring forecast, working so hard. Right, okay, so let's go and have a look at the spreadsheet then. So it's been sent through by Terry. This is the way we work out which years have been coming out on top through the season of updates. So everything that we've been looking at through the season of updates is included here. So we've got the top 10 mildest Decembers, top 10 wettest Decembers. We've got springs following, top 10 warm autumns. We've got spring after autumn precipitation. We've got ECQBO, mature ECQBO. We've got solar cycles. We've got January England Wales rainfall CT data, El Nino to neutral as well. It's included just there, and February CT and England Wales rainfall included from Terry as well. So didn't actually look at those in the update. Didn't have time, but Terry has included those in the spreadsheet for us as well. And then our years are just here, and another number of hits are just there. So, for example, well, let's deal with the very first year, shall we? 1950, and that doesn't have any hits. Didn't turn up at all through the season of spring updates. So, spring 1950 clearly can be discounted. We can come down and have a look at some other years. So, showing up twice, for example, just here, was spring of 1970s. That shows up twice in the season spring updates. That's not enough, though, to be included, so that's discarded. And also spring 1965, that showed up once. Again, that can be discarded as well. We're basically looking for years that have 4 hits or more. So, for example, we've got a pretty good hit rate there. That's 1979. That showed up 4 times in 1979. So that one shows up quite nicely. And showing up 4 times again, we've got 2002 just here. But we actually do better than 4 hits, and our leading analog year, I can tell you, for this season's spring updates was 2015. Just here, that showed up 6 times. That had 6 hits within our season of updates. So thanks to Terry for compiling the spreadsheet. Now, if we go here, these are our lean years that's been sent through by Shryan. Thanks to Shryan Bruin for getting this little table together for us. So, showing up 4 times, we've got 1979, we've got 1995, we've got 2002, we've got 2007, and we've got 2022. They are our lean years showing up 4 times. And then our ultimate lean year is 2015, and that showed up 6 times within our season of updates. So it's 1979, it's 1995, 2002, 2007, 2022, and 2015. This does present us with a bit of a problem because these are very contrasting and very, very different, very different very different spring. So, for example, we've got a really cold, wintry spring there in 1979, and then we've got a really warm spring in 2022. We've got the flooding rains of 2007. We've got a dry and cooler spring 1995, and a pretty warm sort of average type spring in 2022. And then 2015 was a bit of a nondescript spring. But we'll start going through them anyway and have a look. So thanks to Ryan, Terry, for those, for the table and for the spreadsheet. Right, okay, so let's have a look at our leading analog years then, starting with spring 1979. Now, as I say, this is a very cold and wintry spring, so you're going to see why I've got issues yet again, with this long-range forecast, why it's going to be very difficult forecast to predict with low confidence. So we've got the spring of 1979. Okay, so we can see clearly this is an unsettled spring, deep trough of low pressure across West Europe. It's in combination with high pressure in the Atlantic, and the jet stream is pushed a long way southwards. It follows on from a very cold winter, as I've explained in the season of spring updates. When you have a very cold winter, often the pattern of that winter will carry on into the spring. It's one of the singularities of weather that we observe. You know, it doesn't always happen after a very cold winter. For example, the Daddy of Cold Winters, 1962-63, that's actually followed by a relatively mildish spring. So it doesn't always happen, but very often, when you have a cold, winter, it will be followed by a cold spring. So how seriously do we take that one? Because we've had a very mild winter, of course. The winter of 2023-24 couldn't be more different from the winter of 1979. Then we got the winter of 1990, or spring of 1995, I should say. So this one is a cooler spring and drier as well. It's got a higher pressure out to our west, got lower pressure to the east. Winds, therefore, often coming in from the north in this spring. Does have a very warm spell in May of 1995, but March is rather unsettled and rather cold at times as well, even with some snowfalls. And April also has quite a significant cold snap through the middle part of the month. And then we go into May 95, which does have that very hot spell in the early part of the month. Again, right at the very end of the month. In between, it's cooler and more unsettled. So that's a drier, cooler type spring that we have in 1995. Got 2002, which is quite a warm spring but unsettled. Lower pressure is out in the Atlantic, higher pressure is to the east. So this is bringing in the wind a lot of the time, southeasterly direction. We've got 2007, which of course yields a very dry spring to start off with, and then gets flooding rains in May. So again, this shows up with 4 or more hits, 4 hits actually, and it has high pressure, you know, through March and April. So it's a very dry spring really, but does get much more unsettled into May, and May 2007 eventually turns into a very wet month, sets up the very wet pattern of the summer of 2007. Really warm April as well in 2007. Got excuse me, oh dear, we've got 2022. Which has this big area of high pressure, above average height, centred over to the east of the country. Lower pressure is out to the Atlantic, and so this is drawing up wind from a southerly southeast direction. That's a very warm spring that we have in 2022, often dry, and again, it's in some ways setting up the pattern of the summer, which of course was a very, very hot, dry summer in 2022. And then our leading year is 2015. This appears 6 times, so with 6 hits, got 2022. This is just sort of a nondescript type spring, really, with low pressure away to the north, high pressure is to the south, and winds are coming in from a west or a southwesterly direction, with that one a lot of the time. So rather mixed in 2015. So if we put all of that together, this is how all Marches combined are looking following the years that have 4 hits or more, 4 or more for March. Looks rather unsettled. Low pressure is in the Atlantic. Not particularly cold, you'll notice. Winds generally coming in from off the Atlantic. Maybe a slight northwest southeast alignment to the jet stream could allow a few cooler interludes. But overall, that's quite a quite an unsettled but relatively mildish sort of signal, I think, for March. Bear in mind again, we've got 2007, which was an exceptionally dry March. We've also got April. It's how all Aprils combined are looking for our leading analog year scoring 4 or more. Much more anticyclonic in April. High pressure really coming in strongly. You know, got 2007 there, for example, that does that. So much more an anticyclonic signal for April. A drier month, therefore, maybe with some cold snap potential, though, because you notice that the ridge is at times away to the northwest, so at times we could be bringing in a wind into that high pressure from the north. But the main thing about April is that much drier. And then May, probably the most unsettled of the three, with our leading analog year scoring 4 or more. But the Mays combined deep low pressure over into the north of the country, high pressure down to south, and again winds coming in from off the Atlantic. So a complete flip around really from April to May. Probably not particularly cool. I would have thought that could be a relatively warmish signal for these May, particularly with the high pressure down here around the Azores. That could at times allow hotter air to come up from the south. So maybe volatile, wet and volatile, warm, wet and volatile for the Mays perhaps. But again, very contrasting within that. Now, this is how all springs combined are looking for our leading analog year scoring 4 or more. It's an unsettled signal overall for these springs, with low pressure in the ascendancy, high pressures away to the west and to the southwest as well. Obviously, we know within that we have a much more anticyclonic signal, though, in the April. So it's really the Marches and particularly the Mays, I think, that are skewering that overall analog. Now, this is how the temperature anomaly looks for our leading analog year scoring 4 or more. Overall, a relatively coolish spring is being signalled here, with slightly cooler than average temperatures. Again, there are years that are deviating from that. 2022 was a very warm spring, for example, as was 2007. And 1979, because it was a very, very cold spring, might be skewering that analog a little bit. And for precipitation, coming out a bit above average as well. So a cool wet spring is favoured overall, with our leading analog year scoring 4 hits or more. A rather cool and wet signal for those springs. If we just narrow things down to Berlin year, which of course is 2015, and it wasn't all that long ago, but I thought I'd have a little recap what the spring of 2015 was like. So March was relatively anticyclonic, with the Azores high building up from the southwest. Low pressure was away towards Greenland and Iceland. Jet stream was up here somewhere. So relatively mild and dry signal for March 2015. April 2015 also looking relatively dry and mild, anticyclonic, higher pressure through the west of Europe. Once again, low pressure away towards Greenland and Iceland. Jet streams up there somewhere. So both March and April coming out relatively dry and mild, but May much more unsettled. May 2015, again, perhaps yielding the pattern of what was a pretty cool and unsettled summer, albeit it did have one big heat spike at the beginning of July 2015. But overall, the summer of 2015 was quite cool and unsettled, and perhaps May 2015 begins to yield that pattern, with low pressure dominating in the Atlantic, high pressure down towards Spain, and therefore a westerly Atlantic driven flow. Somewhat unusually for May, which tends to have a lot of easterly winds and Scandinavian highs and whatnot. Quite an unusual pattern that, I think, for May. And the spring of 2015 overall, we saw it a moment ago, but that's how it looks. So overall it has the higher pressure towards the south, low pressure to the north. But remember, the low pressure really comes into play in May. And the temperature for spring 2015 was slightly on the cool side, actually, more particularly for northern regions. And the precipitation for 2015 was a little bit, well, it's sort of near normal to slightly above average to our northwest. And again, that would be particularly down to May 2015. Right, so that's gone through all of the data. And we've got problems. I've got problems. Now, I'm going to come up with a forecast for this spring based on all of that. And what am I going to do? I'm going to go and hide. No, I'm not. I'm going to pause the video, and when I come back, I'll deliver the GavsWeatherVids spring forecast. So hang around and all should be revealed in a second. Right, okay, we're back and we're ready to reveal all. Dad's going to reveal all now, so brace yourself. So we've gone through the data. We've had a look at the spreadsheet. We know which years are the analog years. We've gone through those analog years one by one and looked at them in a combined nature. And we've looked at the leading year, which was 2015. And so we've gone through all of that. Now it's time to deliver the forecast. We've got problems because, as I've explained throughout this video, we have got very contrasting springs there. So it's the way that we weight the years that is, is going to be important. For example, 1979, I should say, is not weighted particularly heavily at all. It's in there, but it's not weighted particularly heavy due to the fact that the winter just gone was so very, very different to the winter of 1979. So we don't, use that with a particularly high weighting. So the more relevant years will probably be like 1995, 2002, 2022. Those years are weighted a bit heavier, which means we're probably going to be forecasting above average temperatures for this spring, although maybe not excessively so. I don't think it'll be an exceptionally mild season such as we've had for this winter, but I would suspect we will probably come out with temperatures, a little bit above average, perhaps about 1 degree above the most recent average, which of course is 91 to 2020. Now, going for a slightly milder average spring. Also, I think we go for near normal rainfall, so that will hopefully be a drier season compared to what we've been used to during this deluge period, summer, autumn, and winter. Had above average rainfall, I think, particularly the autumn and the winter, of course, been an exceptionally wet period. I think we come out of that to some degree, though. I wouldn't necessarily say it's going to be a very dry season. I don't think we're going to flip off into a drought, not immediately, anyway. Famous last words, of course, but I think we will still try and throw back to the very unsettled pattern of times. However, I think higher pressure will have more of a foothold on this season, so we should get some drier periods in there. Now, how all of this works out on a month-by-month basis is going to be very interesting. I think March is probably going to be quite mixed, so we'll have a traditional March mix of drier and also wetter period, but maybe going a little bit more toward the drier side, if anything, and that could carry on into April as well. And then I suspect May probably goes wetter and more volatile as well, a little bit more volatile into May. So that could be warm and wet. It could be quite a wet month, quite a warm month, but also quite a wettish month. Fair amount of thunderstorms and volatility going on in May. I think there is the possibility of quite a potent cold snap within that. So having said that, we're going to have above average temperatures, I would suspect we probably get quite a cold snap at some point, and I would put that more into April, if anything. Maybe late March, depending on the SSW that we're expecting the first week of March, but more likely I think that happens as we go on into April. Now, I have noticed, over the years, that El Nino April's following El Ninos tend to set up a Greenland block at some point through them and go quite cold. Not always, as an example, for example, the 2007, which is an exceptionally mild, warm April following an El Nino winter. But more often than not, you tend to get a bit of a cold snap in April. That can sometimes be a cold, wet spell. So if you get the high pressure over Greenland, you can set up like a trough underneath it and go into a very cold, wet pattern. But more often it's not that wet. More often it's more of a drier, colder type pattern. So I would suspect that March, so on a month-by-month basis, I would suspect that March probably is close to average, probably a bit above average temperature, maybe a little bit on the drier side. April probably on the drier side as well, but could be cold, could be our first colder than average month for probably since December 2022. Maybe. I'm not sure about that, so no in the comments, I'm sure. And then May, I think, is quite warm, but also wetter and more volatile and a more thundery type pattern. So we shall see. I mean, this is just purely a guess, to be honest. It's a complete guess. So we shall see how it all comes together and how it all works out. You know, and if we can get it like 50% right, then I think we'll be doing okay, given how weak the signals are within the analogs and within our leading analog years. So, to sum it up, yes, we're going for a slightly warmer than average spring, mild average spring, by about a degree above the 2020 average. Average rainfall, which is a drier season than we've had recently, contrasting March, perhaps colder but a bit drier for April, and then a warmer, wetter May. We'll see. Right, if you've enjoyed this forecast, please do like, share, subscribe. Thank you so much to Richard for our amazing spring updates gift. I love it, Rich. And thank you so much to Terry for the spreadsheet and for all of the help with the season spring updates. And, of course, thanks to Ryan as well for all the help throughout the season of updates and for our leading years table in this forecast. And we'll leave it there. So, obviously, at the end of the season, when we get into the beginning of June, we'll review this forecast, see how it went, see how we did, and it will be interesting to come back and have a look as ever. We will now be rolling on to summer updates, and we will have to verify the winter forecast. Oh dear, oh dear, oh dear. But you know, it's going to be a bad verification, but nevertheless, we'll still do that for you. That'll be coming up some point through the first couple of weeks of March. And as I say, we're moving on now to summer updates. And the first summer update will be released at GavsWeatherVids next Sunday. So summer 2024 updates about to commence, and we shall wait and see what the spring has to give us. Going to be live at 6 p.m. So if you've got any questions about this spring forecast, then please fire away in the live stream, and I shall do my best to answer those. Let me know what you think about the forecast. Quite an interesting forecast, hopefully, so let me know what you think about it. But for the GWV Spring 2024 forecast, that's all for now, and thank you so much for watching. Bye for now.